For this demo, I'll walk you through viewing information in the registry by taking a look at registry settings for an application for WiredBrain Coffee. Traditionally, you should refrain from editing the registry unless you know exactly what you're doing. So say you're working with somebody from Microsoft or a third-party application, and they've said, hey, you need to change this registry setting in order to get things working. That's one of those, okay, we can make the change. Of course, you make a backup to make sure you can be restored if something were to happen. So changing the registry is going to have an immediate impact on the system because basically the registry contains all of the information that makes Windows Windows. It includes the group policy settings, changes you make in the GUI. So when you type something in or you change the background or those sorts of stuff, all of that stuff gets stored in the registry. So we want to be very careful. So let's dive in and take a look at working with the registry. So here we are on our client machine. So I have the registry editor opened. The reason is I want to show you and talk a little bit about the registry key that's been created for our WiredBrain Coffee app so that you understand what it looks like in the GUI. So when we work in PowerShell, you have the connection between the two. So in the registry editor, you'll see that we have the key for WiredBrain Coffee. And then underneath there, we have a number of properties. So we see a packaged installed with a value of 1, which is a type that's a string, and then a package name of WiredBrain Coffee app.msi. So having a value of 1 for package install means that the package is installed on the system. So the way WiredBrain Coffee works is that this package is installed automatically for all users, and there's a script that runs at the logon for every user. So if we need to reinstall this application, what we simply need to do is reset that package install registry key to 0 so that the next time that the user logs on, it'll reinstall that application. So if we want to check to see if that key is available, we can do that with PowerShell. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking a look at this thing called a PowerShell provider. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out do a help get-ps provider. And that shows us the help for the PowerShell provider. And basically what this does, it allows us to see a number of different data stores within the system as if they were a file system drive. So it actually allows us to work with and view the registry as if it were our C drive. So it's actually pretty cool in the way that that works. So if I do a get PS provider, it'll show me the PowerShell providers that are set up on the system. So we see a number of them for aliases, environment. Notice down at the bottom we have registry. We have 2 drives, HKLM, HKCU, so HKey local machine, and HKey current user, the 2 main registry hives that you would work with. So what I can do is if I want to go into HKey local machine to work with and check that property, what I can do is I can do a set-location to change to HKey local machine. And that, notice my prompt changes. And if I do a dir to do a directory, we see that it shows a directory, but it shows some access denied. The reason is I'm not running with a privileged account here. So I'm going to change directory into software. We'll do a dir. And notice it goes through the entire directory. Now we see we've got our WiredBrain Coffee. We see the package install is set to 1. We see the package name WiredBrain Coffee app.msi. So the application's installed. So what we want to do is we want to work with that packaged install property and change that from 1 to 0. So in order to do that, we're going to use a set dash. So if we do a set dash item property, because a registry key is considered an item. So if we were working with the WiredBrain Coffee key, we would do a set dash item. If we want to work with the properties underneath it, we need to do a set dash item property. So Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a dash path, and that's going to be the Wired Brain coffee. And then we want to put in what the name is of the property we're working with, and that's installed. And then we want to set the value to 0. Notice requested registry access is not allowed. That's because we need to have elevated privileges. So we need to have that administrator account. So if you don't have those, this would be one of those times where you would need to escalate this to somebody's second level support or above. Somebody above you that does have those permissions. But we're going to go and use that administrator account we have. So we're going to run the PowerShell console as mbadmin. And then I'm going to do a set location. We'll go into HKey local machine, software, and then I'm going to do a set item property for that Wired Brain coffee. The name is package installed, and then we're going to change the value to 0. So notice that worked for us. And to verify, we're going to go back over here and we're going to do a get dash item for the Wired Brain coffee. So notice that our package install that's been set to 0. So now we'd instruct the user to log off, and then that would reinstall the application. So that's how you work around with the registry using PowerShell.